Hi, I'm Barry Hudson, Chairman of the Building Study Committee of First United Methodist Church of Fort Worth. I'd like to welcome you to this important update on the progress of our exciting building expansion project. Did you know that next year we will celebrate the 90th anniversary of our church breaking ground on this beautiful historic building? In keeping with that history and the legacy it created, we as a congregation now have a special opportunity to provide that same kind of visionary leadership for our next 90 years. That vision, commitment, courage, and faithfulness of our church's past generations is why we're standing on this exciting new threshold of opportunity today. Now it's our turn. It's up to us to make that same kind of difference for future generations of our congregation. Now, if I were running a trivia contest, I'd ask you, can you guess what other historic event took place on the very same day we broke ground on our current sanctuary, and what our response was to that historic event? If you don't know, please keep watching. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the members of our Building Study Committee. You'll hear more about them in a moment, and say what a wonderful experience it's been to lead this hardworking, conscientious, and thoughtful group of church members and community leaders. Their knowledge, diligence, insight, and wisdom has been invaluable to the development of this project. And now, here's our senior pastor, Dr. Tim Bruster, who will lead us through an informative presentation and update us on where we are and what's next with our building expansion project.
Well, it's my privilege and opportunity to talk to you about the vision for the facilities of our church. It may be that you haven't had a chance to attend one of the informational meetings, and so I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to see what the vision for the facilities of our church looks like and why we are pursuing this very important initiative to ensure that the ministries of our church thrive for the next 90 years. Before we take a look at the master plan vision, let's look back on what has happened over the past year and a half or so. We had a congregation-wide meeting to present the master plan vision in the sanctuary on a Sunday afternoon in February of 2017. In the fall and winter of last year, we went through the Focus First process of strategic discernment with renowned church consultant Susan Beaumont. The process culminated in a 2-day leadership summit in February, attended by over 100 leaders of the church. The number one priority identified by the summit was to build new facilities and renovate current facilities to meet the growth and ministry needs of the church moving forward. The Building Study Committee has been hard at work. The architectural firm, with the approval of the trustees, proceeded with the schematic design phase. The Building Committee interviewed several firms to hire as construction consultant to work with the architects to determine the cost of the project. A joint venture of Byrne and Scott Tucker construction companies was selected. And after interviewing 4 capital campaign consulting firms, we selected the firm called Culture of Ready. Your Building Study Committee has done a stellar job. On your screen, you see the names of members of the committee. Barry Hudson, lifelong member of the church, is chair of the committee, and Tom Birchfield was added recently to the committee to ensure the accessibility of our facilities. Why are we planning new facilities and renovations to some of our current ones? Because, put simply, facilities facilitate. They facilitate ministry and enable this great church to fulfill our mission to love God, serve people, and transform lives. There are 3 areas of the life of our church that are particularly addressed by this exciting plan. The facilities facilitate our expanded worship life, our fellowship with one another, and our ministries for our children. And on top of that, they make it easier for people to find their way around. Why the need for new facilities? 2 answers: congregational growth and community growth. We're in a rapidly growing area, and we're seeing significant growth in our congregation. We need to have facilities that will serve the congregation and our community now and into the future. Here you see a bird's eye view of our property. You'll note that our property encompasses 9 city blocks. We're blessed by the foresight of the leaders and members of the church who purchased property as it became available through the years so that the church would never be landlocked and would have ample space for generations to come. If you attend only one service every Sunday, then you may not realize all the worship services that take place on Sunday mornings. Disciple Church meets at 8:30 in the Leonard Memorial Chapel. Traditional worship takes place in our sanctuary at 9:30 and 11. The Gathering is a worship service that takes place at 9:30 and 11 in Wesley Hall. The 11:11 worship service takes place in leased space at the Center for Transforming Lives, adjacent to our property to the east. These are the primary services which are included in our worship attendance count, but there are other worship opportunities that happen on Sunday morning as well. Youth worship at 9:30 is part of the Sunday school hour, and a brief communion service takes place in the chapel at 10:35. In the facility planning process, the Building Study Committee was careful to protect the primary views of our beautiful historic sanctuary. The expansion of the footprint, therefore, for the building is to the east. Here you see the view from the east of the existing facilities back to the point of the new construction. And now you see the view of what the facilities will look like when the new construction is complete. What you see here is the first floor plan that includes both existing and new facilities and how they fit together. Notice that everything revolves around a central rotunda. This helps tremendously with wayfinding. If you enter from the west, you go directly into the rotunda. If you enter from the south through the courtyard, you go directly into the rotunda. And if you enter from the east, you go directly into the rotunda. And once there, you can access most of the ministry areas of the church. Children and the preschool through a secure check-in area, the clergy and staff offices, the sanctuary, the garden courtyard, Wesley Hall, the chapel, and the multi-purpose worship and dining space. So, what are the primary features of the plan? Well, Wesley Hall is renovated so that the direction is reversed so that you enter Wesley Hall from the central rotunda. A beautiful domed rotunda is at the heart of the facilities. A large multi-purpose room for events, for dining, and for non-traditional worship. And an expansion of the children's wing. At the heart of our facilities will be the fellowship rotunda. In the terrazzo floor will be a beautiful, permanent 42-foot prayer labyrinth. The indoor playground in the children's area will be visible from the rotunda. And there will be a cafe to enhance our hospitality and fellowship in that beautiful space. Here's a rendition of the rotunda showing how the architecture and finishes of the space are in keeping with our beautiful historic building. Imagine Sunday morning. People can see one another and visit with one another in this beautiful space. Guests can find their way around and learn about the church in this space. Imagine the sense of community. Imagine how alive this space will be. This cutaway of the rotunda shows how it's structured and how it fits in with the overall facilities. Another feature of the first floor is the multi-purpose dining and non-traditional worship space. Here you see the room in the configuration for worship or for a presentation such as a large lecture or a dramatic presentation. There are 514 seats in this configuration. Also, there's banquet seating for 320 or for 432 in the banquet seating configuration. It will be a beautiful 3-story vaulted space with multimedia capacity. It's about 2.5 times the size of Wesley Hall, and there will be new adjacent restrooms and an enlarged commercial kitchen. Here are renderings of the space, demonstrating that this isn't just a big box, but it is architecturally in keeping with our current facilities. Imagine worship experiences, large lectures, dramatic presentations, or community events in this beautiful space. Here's a drawing of the space set up for a dinner event. Imagine church-wide dinners and receptions and vacation Bible school assemblies in this beautiful, functional space. Creating this new heart of our campus and keeping the building relatively compact requires demolition of part of our current facilities with a footprint of about 5,200 square feet. So you may be asking, how will we continue to function during construction? Well, there is a plan, and it involves building new first-floor restrooms and a new elevator, along with a temporary corridor for full access to the various areas of the building. Here you see the temporary passage, the new restrooms, and 2 possible locations for the new elevator. Here you see a view of the second floor. Notice the walkway around the perimeter of the rotunda, the small prayer chapel off the rotunda walkway, new adult classrooms, new central elevators, the bell choir room, the remodeled choir suite, and the secure check-in for the children's wing. The 2-story indoor playground in the children's area is also visible from the second floor. Here you see a view of the third floor. Notice that the perimeter walkway around the rotunda is open to the rotunda. Notice the new features on the third floor, the finance and administrative offices, the television production suite relocated to the communications staff offices area because it's currently in the demolition area, and a large undesignated shell space that can be used for future needs. We've already looked at the relocation of elevators, restrooms, and the TV production suite. What about the Nancy Culver Jones Library, which is also in the demo area? This hasn't been determined, but there are 2 possible locations on the first floor for the library, and 3 possible locations on the second floor, and a possibility on the third floor as well. So here's a view of the completed facility, showing the sanctuary, Wesley Hall, existing classrooms, the chapel, the fellowship rotunda, the new east colonnaded entry with covered drop-off, the multi-purpose dining and worship space, the new children's addition, and just off to the right of the new children's addition is the new secure playground. Much of the HVAC and plumbing equipment in the church is very old. Some of it is original. There will be a new central plant located on the roof of the new children's wing addition. This central plant will serve the entire main building, old and new, with new equipment replacing old equipment. This is a major upgrade in efficiency. Here's a perspective from the east showing some of the detail on the domed fellowship rotunda. The dome harkens back to the dome church building that housed the congregation on the corner of 7th and Taylor Streets before the church relocated to the present site. The new construction totals 53,324 square feet. 19,952 square feet will be renovated. The total main building at completion will be 137,012 square feet. Here's where the church worshiped 90 years ago. It was at the corner of 7th and Taylor Streets. Notice the central dome and the 2 domed structures at the front corners. 90 years ago, the church made the bold decision to relocate to the current location to enable the ministries of the church to thrive over the succeeding 90 years. Here's the announcement of the church groundbreaking that appeared in the newspaper on October 27, 1929. Notice the date and time of the groundbreaking. 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, October 29th, 1929, a day etched in our nation's memory as Black Tuesday, the day the stock market crashed, signaling the beginning of what would become known as the Great Depression. In a tremendous leap of faith, the congregation proceeded with the construction of a beautiful new facility. Here's a postcard of that completed new building, the building we now enjoy. 90 years ago, the leaders and members of the church stepped out in faith to enable the ministries of the church to thrive and to grow into the future beyond their lifetimes. Now it's up to us. I believe it is critical that we step out in faith. It's our turn to ensure the vitality of the ministries of our church for the next 90. So, what's next? Well, there'll be another church-wide information meeting with a live presentation and an opportunity for conversation and for getting your questions answered on Sunday, November the 11th, in the sanctuary at 2 o'clock. Now, that presentation will include a report from the Building Finance Committee outlining the financial plan for the project and the financial plan for operations following the completion of the project. Then, in a separate meeting, we'll have a called church conference to vote as a congregation on moving forward with the capital campaign. Now, according to the United Methodist Book of Discipline, the quorum for a church conference consists of the full members and clergy of a local church who are present for the meeting. Members of the conference must be present in order to vote. Now, it's important to understand that a positive vote at the church conference is not a commitment to build, but a commitment to move forward with fundraising in pursuit of this transformational project that will enable the church to thrive in its ministries for the next 90 years. So please watch for details regarding this called congregational meeting and vote. You will receive 2 weeks' notice of the date and time of the meeting.